Hello again. So today I'm talking about the seven deadly sins, specifically how they apply to the internet. But we're going to go into a little history first. So the concept of classifying sins has existed to pre-Christian times. Greco-Roman writers, Horace and Tertullian wrote a lot about them. Sometime about the time the Christianity started, the Romans had them broken down into basically nine sins. Three categories: physical, emotional, and mental. And then each category had three sins in them, which I'm not going to go into detail because they're little. How do these really differ from each other? In some cases, it's hard to tell how they differ from each other. Around the 4th century, a monk named Evagrius Ponticus squished it down to 8 sins. Um, and they were basically the seven we have today. Sloth he called dejection, so it's basically being dejected, having these bad thoughts was considered a sin, and that led to sloth. So he didn't have sloth as its own sin, but it was more of a side note of dejection. And then boastfulness and pride he listed as two separate sins. 590 AD, Pope Gregory gives us our common list today. He basically combines pride and boastfulness into one. He names dejection as sloth. Thomas Aquinas writes major treatise defending the Pope's listing. And so he ends up getting most of the credit for writing up the list of seven sins, even though all he did was defend someone else's ideas. And those ideas had already been gone over by several people throughout history. Anyway, so when you talk about the seven deadly sins, people start to get into all sorts of weird thoughts on them. Things like we try to classify things by them, and we try to find ways to apply them. So I've seen people say the characters in Winnie the Pooh reflect the seven deadly sins, supposedly, and they make two or three good arguments, and then they really start to stretch to say, okay, well, this person then represents this sin, etc. Trying to get lust into Winnie the Pooh doesn't work very well. Gilligan's Island now, we had Ginger Grant, the sexy movie star, so she could be lust. And people, you can go online, you'll find lists of people trying to make, the Gilligan's Island cast be the seven deadly sins. And again, they do a good job with maybe five of them, and then the other two, they sort of have to stretch and, start making assumptions or whatever. So it doesn't really work. That's basically where we're at today with the seven deadly sins. Is people have stopped referring to them as sins, and they just started looking for all these weird things about how they reflect in television shows and stuff. Um, so one thing I've never seen anyone look at the seven deadly sins as they apply to the internet. So I decided to. Okay, so starting with, I'm going to start with sloth. Because sloth, it's one of the hardest ones to categorize in other groups, other listings people try to do. When it comes to the internet, to some extent, the internet itself is slothful. I could be doing work and I'm sitting here on my computer. Even if I work with computer, there's always the question of, do I do my work or do I play a video game? There's it's not inactivity, but it is not doing your work. So I would still consider that sloth. Now, another thing that's come up with this is, just speaking of not doing your work, internet cons, scamming people, stealing people's money has become easier with the internet. and it's become lazier too. We make movies. We got Catch Me If You Can. We got The Sting. We got The Sting 2, which wasn't as good. Um, people, movies about people doing cons. We don't have any movies that I know of people doing internet cons because it's boring. In the old days, these people are stealing money, but they've got to talk to you face to face most of the time. They've got to put some work into it. They got to put some effort into stealing your money. Internet, I don't even have to come up with the idea. Just have to see if someone else using a scam, copy their idea, email it to someone, and sit back and wait for them to respond. Wait a second. I don't even have to email it to one person. I can email it to 500 people at the same time. The internet has made scamming people even lazier than old style scamming. So, yeah, we have sloth on the internet. Now, while we're talking about scams, the two major topics of scam are lust and greed. Hello. I am the simple girl living in Kazakhstan looking to meet a man from your country to have passionate relationship with. Send me money for airplane ticket and we can have sex. Yeah, basically, that's maybe a third of the internet scams are supposedly women from foreign countries who will fulfill your lustful desires. The other 2/3 are, I work in this Nigerian bank and we had a guy with the same last name of you die, but he had a $2 million account with us. So if you send me money, I can send you half of his money. So it's greed. We're playing on people's lust. We're playing on people's greed. Now, of course, the scammers themselves are greedy, but that's what internet scams run off of primarily, are lust and greed. Now, we can't, of course, speaking of lust, we can't leave off the whole internet porn industry, which, the porn industry just blew up completely when the internet came around. It always existed. Several major print, porn magazines went out of business eventually with the internet just because it wasn't worth printing up something when people could get it for free on the internet. There's the old joke: if we took all the porn off the internet, the only thing left would be a site, which would be www.bringbacktheporn.com. Just a joke, but at the same time, yeah, if you read the internet enough times, it's somewhat accurate. Even to the point, whitehouse.com is, don't know if it still exists. It was at one time a famous porn site just because it used the White House tag on it. And the whole point was people trying to find whitehouse.gov, the legitimate government site, will be used to typing .com and will come to their site instead. And so it's basically tricking people into watching porn or looking at porn or whatever. Again, never been to the site, so I don't know what their format was. I just know it existed and was famous at one point at least. Now, greed, on the other hand, there's a lot to do with greed. So, .com exists because it is a commercial website. And they either make money with selling advertising space to people or people actually selling stuff online. Which I'm not against e-tail as long as it's done legitimately. But now we start to see weird things come up to it, like I do some online shopping, I buy something, all of a sudden, I buy a book. Let's say I buy a book on history. When I go to my Facebook page, when I go to whatever, when I'm searching, all the little side advertisements start coming up, history books. Because I did one internet search on history books. They know I'm interested in history. They've shared the information. Someone has sold the information. greed has gotten in here. Some people have seen we can make money with this guy in history. So, greed has jumped out and gotten into all my feeds. Another thing with greed, what was it? I got some notes here. Sorry, I've got to look at these again. Identity theft. There we go. All sorts of scams to steal identities so that we can steal your money. It's greed. Greed is very big on the internet. Speaking of other cons, Facebook. I've been seeing a lot of ads on Facebook for going out of business sales. And did a little research, and some of these are scams. It's not a real company. They're great deals. You aren't going to get your great deal, all of them. So I've contacted Facebook and said, hey, this is a scam. And got a response saying, their ad does not violate any of our policies. Well, no, it doesn't, because their ad doesn't say, hey, we're scammers. The policies they're talking about is it's nothing pornography, it's not, racially sensitive or anything like that. They're just advertising a sale. The fact that the sale doesn't exist, Facebook doesn't care. They haven't violated the policy with the ad itself. It's when you go to their website and try to order from them and they take your money and don't send you any product, that it's a scam. But that's not Facebook's problem. So again, back to greed. Even when you point this out, Facebook continues to run these ads because they're getting paid for it. Greed on the internet. Okay, so where's my next thing? Speaking of, now, when you do get stolen from, people steal your money on the line, it hurts your pride. Of course, the internet itself is also a big source of pride. Trolling. Trolling is a combination of pride and wrath, in my opinion. How dare you disagree with me? I'm going to be angry at this. My pride is hurt because you disagreed with me. My result's an angry response. Internet trolls. Now this has exploded into cancel culture now, because we've got social media, we've got the internet, we can contact all sorts of people and get them to agree with us. So now, just instead of me trolling you, we've got everyone trying to kick you out of the internet because you're an evil, evil person because you disagree with us. How prideful, how wrathful. To a small extent, envy also comes into trolling, because some people are just, you've proven yourself better than me. Instead of trying to better myself, I'm going to print trolling comments about you. Envy also comes out with the whole influencer. This started back with celebrity bloggers, which should never be the word celebrity and blog don't belong to the same sentence. But people became famous by blogging, sharing their opinion. Everyone else wanted their opinion to be famous. So now everyone wants to be an influencer. People become envious of each other. Oh, your feed's getting more comments than mine, so I'm going to dislike you. Or even better yet, I'm going to write my comment on your thing saying you don't know what you're talking about. And so, envious people have invaded the internet as well. It's harder to see envy sometimes, but it still exists on the internet because, again, someone else got famous, I need to become famous. And so I'm going to do what I can on the internet to try to become famous. And if I don't, I'm going to, be envious, and I'm going to start trolling, and I'm going to start doing all this other, my pride is hurt because I'm envious. There's this big cycle going on around this with all these. When I was planning this video, I had all sorts of logic loops and all going on because the seven deadly sins feed off each other. And so trying to organize this video was harder than some of the other ones I've done. Now the last sin we haven't talked about is gluttony, which people don't eat the internet, so that's not a problem. It's the least obvious on the internet because, like I said, unless you're showing videos of people eating, it doesn't come up much on the internet. There are some things you do have to eat while you use your computer, if you use your computer all day. So that's it's not really gluttony, other than the fact that people are now eating less healthy things sometimes. Poor diet. If you want to think of things, sloth, gluttony, and lust, they're all sort of overindulgent sins. Lust, you overindulge in sex. Gluttony, you overindulge in food. Sloth, you overindulge in sleep or relaxation, if you want to call it that. So to some extent, we could make an argument that there is a sort of gluttony. It's not really the food eating gluttony, but there are types of gluttony, types of overindulgence with the internet. One thing that's come up with the internet, I've talked about people eating while they use it. Got my keyboard right here. I could be ordering a pizza while I make this video if I wanted to. So, yeah, the internet has made it easier for us to eat and not have to work for our food. So to that extent, it is sort of gluttonous. But beyond that, I would have to say gluttony is the one sin least popular on the internet. The one most popular, that's a tricky one. Like I said, I would probably go somewhere between lust and pride, just because some people spend all their time on the internet because they want to be noticed, and some people spend all their time on the internet because they want to notice other people. And we can take that however you want to take it. Anyway, my suggestion is, if you're going to sin, at least get off the internet when you do it, because you're at least getting some exercise. Overall, try not to sin. And that's it. Have a nice day.